We begin again with the I Ching today. And before we talk about the I Ching, we're going to also use the name of Confucius. Now, Confucius himself was a man of a great difficult life. Confucius was born from a very scoundrel type father, a warrior, and he did nothing but run all over the place and make armies and a lot of conflict. And the man that was his father had no children and wanted a son, so he actually married a concubine. It didn't belong to him at all. He was about 70 and she was 16. And when he became born, he did not look good. He was ugly. He was too fat. He was too tall. Something about his head wasn't just right. So he was ridiculed, of course, as a child and not accepted. His mother was the only one who did accept him. But the one thing about Confucius that made him different than any other child, especially since he couldn't play with other kids or have fun, was his great interest in learning. Confucius wanted to learn all the time, and he just had a devouring ability to accept any book he got and learn it. So his mother was the one who taught him how to read, what it means, and that helped him to start this life journey of learning. Now, in addition to that, though, his entire life was involved in conflicts of all kinds all around him. The time he lived in China, he moved away from Beijing to a place a little closer to the eastern sea of China. He was in areas where there was constant conflict, different wars, different regimes that wanted to rule, and so forth. So the essence of what Confucius learned, he wanted to share, which was not to have war, not to hate your brothers and sisters, not to have conflict, not to have different tribes and different divergent places to call your home and so forth. He wanted something called unity with people, with governments. He wanted love for each other because humans should love each other. And he wanted, above all things, to pursue learning in order to do good in the world, make the world a better place than it was before you came into the world. Well, one thing Confucius did, even though he had a terribly difficult life, was to actually do something like that. And we will discuss that shortly. But first of all, let me just show you what the book is that usually is considered the book that made him famous in the world. Analects of Confucius. These are the sayings of Confucius. Now, one may have many translations of these and many comments about them. This happens to be a particular one that does something like that. And it's one thing that Confucius did accomplish. That is, he accomplished in this book what he wanted to accomplish in the world but could not. These sayings, even though there may be some fragments of the total sayings, but still, these sayings contain that kind of outlook on life that Confucius wanted all of us to attain, to bring peace into the world, to bring harmony into the world, to bring learning into a high level in the world, to make it a better place, and to keep that going after you are not in the world any longer, so that we progress progressively toward a better life and outside of ourselves, a better world. This was the goal of Confucius, even though he himself had a very difficult life, a very life of great sorrow and hardship. In fact, when his mother died, that was the hardest time for his whole life because she was the one that loved him the most of anybody. We will continue with this in a moment.